Let's get brutally honest. Some people will smile in your face, laugh at your jokes, leave enthusiastic comments under your photos, and quietly wish for your downfall. Nobody talks about this, but we need to. Deep down, we all know the harsh reality. Not everyone who seems kind actually likes you. And sometimes, the people clapping the loudest are silently hoping you'll fall. Here's the savage truth nobody admits. Hidden dislike wears 1,000 masks. It can look like a savage joke. That leaves you laughing while bleeding on the inside. It can look like silence when you most need support or an invitation. That never comes. Or a compliment. That stings more than it heals. Ghosting, gossip, digital cold shoulders. It's subtle, twisted, and brutal. I felt it. I remember sitting in a crowded room, people laughing, drinks clinking, and feeling completely invisible. I remember checking my phone, hoping for a message that never came. And worst of all, pretending everything was fine. Have you ever been there? Have you ever felt like an outsider in rooms where you're supposed to belong? And have you ever asked yourself, is it me or is it them? Because here's the brutal truth. If you don't learn to spot the signs, you'll keep loving people who secretly resent you. You'll pour your time and your loyalty into people who chip away at your confidence, one sarcastic joke at a time. But what if I told you there's a way to see through the facade, to spot the hidden agenda before it poisons your peace? Today, we're going to decode the 7 subtle signs that someone dislikes you and is hiding it. And I'll show you how to deal with it the Stoic way, because your worth isn't up for debate. Let me share something the Stoics understood long before social media ever existed. It's not suspicion, it's awareness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone despises me, that's their problem. My only concern is whether I act justly." Those words are a brutal truth, because it means people might dislike you for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Maybe you remind them of something they're insecure about. Maybe your confidence feels like an accusation against their own self-doubt. Or maybe they simply want to keep you small so they can feel big. But here's the savage truth nobody talks about. It's easy to waste years trying to win people over who secretly resent you. You start changing the way you speak, editing yourself just to keep the peace, laughing at jokes that hurt you, accepting invitations you don't want, just so you won't be left out the next time. I've done it. I've stayed in rooms where my spirit felt unwelcome. I've ignored subtle digs because I was afraid of being labeled too sensitive. But the Stoics would tell you this: you can't control how others feel, but you can control how you respond. That's your anchor, because hidden dislike isn't just about them. It's also about how much of yourself you're willing to sacrifice just to be accepted. And the harsh reality is this: if you're constantly trying to prove your worth, you'll keep handing your power to people who don't deserve it. So today, as we dive into these 7 signs, I want you to remember one thing. Your worth isn't up for debate. One moment, everyone's laughing. The next, it's poison beneath a velvet glove. Have you ever been the punchline? The room roars with laughter, but there you are, smiling politely, while your chest feels tight and a voice inside whispers, "Did they really mean that as a joke? Or was that a jab?" Let's get brutally honest. There's a savage truth nobody likes to admit. Sometimes people who love you use humor as camouflage for hidden contempt. They'll wrap their digs in laughter, disguise insults as jokes, because if you call them out, they'll smirk and say, "Come on, you're too sensitive." That's the twisted brilliance of the joking assassin. They get to wound you without ever looking cruel. I've been there. Years ago, there was someone in my life I considered a close friend. Let's call him Ben. Ben was quick-witted, funny, the kind of guy everyone wanted around. But when it came to me, he always had jokes. Jokes about how I dressed, about my ideas being too big for someone like me, about my voice being a bit much. At first, I laughed along, because laughing feels safer than confronting someone you care about. But slowly, I started second-guessing myself. I'd stand in front of my closet, wondering if my clothes would become tomorrow's punchline. I'd bite my tongue, afraid to share my dreams, in case they became his next savage joke. And that's when it hit me. Those jokes weren't jokes. They were calculated digs, meant to keep me small. Stoic philosophy teaches us something powerful here. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone does wrong, it's because they believe it's right for them. But my duty is to remain just and true." The Stoics remind us, observe, reflect, choose wisely. It's not about blowing up in anger. It's about recognizing when humor stops being harmless and starts becoming a weapon. So how do you deal with a joking assassin? First, pause, observe. Ask yourself, is this really funny, or is there venom hiding under the laughter? And if the answer is yes, don't just laugh it off. Calmly and firmly say something like, "I get that you're joking, but that landed a little hard. Was there something serious behind that comment?" Watch their reaction, because someone who's truly a friend will apologize and adjust, but someone who's hiding resentment will double down or mock you for not being able to take a joke. And that is your clue, because life's too short to surround yourself with people who chip away at your confidence, bit by bit, until you're nothing but the punchline to their private jokes. So remember this, you're allowed to laugh, but you're also allowed to draw your line in the sand. Don't let anyone reduce you to a punchline. Have you ever experienced someone like this? Someone who hides sharp knives behind a smile? Drop your story in the comments. You're not alone. Let's talk about a sign that's more common now than ever before. Digital exclusion. It's one of the cruelest facades of modern relationships. Have you ever opened your phone and stumbled onto a picture of your friends at a dinner, laughing, glasses raised, and you had no idea the dinner even happened? Or scrolled through your group chat and realized that plans were made without you? You stare at the screen, telling yourself, maybe it was last minute, maybe it was just an oversight. But deep down, you know the savage truth. If someone wants you there, they'll make sure you know. Nobody likes to admit this, but digital exclusion is often a subtle way of telling you you're not part of the inner circle, and it cuts deeper than most people realize. I've been there. A few years back, I woke up on a Sunday morning, sleepy-eyed, coffee in hand. I opened Instagram, and there it was, a group I thought I belonged to. At a weekend getaway, smiles, toasts, inside jokes in the captions. My chest went tight. I scrolled faster, hoping I'd find a message from someone saying, "We wanted you there." But there was nothing. I tried to convince myself, maybe they knew I was busy. Maybe they thought I wouldn't want to come. But a quiet voice inside whispered, if they wanted you there, you'd be there. Stoicism teaches us a powerful distinction. Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Digital exclusion feels personal, but it often says more about their comfort than your worth. Some people can't handle your presence. Sometimes it's envy, sometimes it's insecurity, sometimes it's just cowardice. But here's the brutal truth. You can't beg your way into spaces where people have already decided to exclude you. The more you chase them, the smaller you'll feel. So how should you handle it? The Stoic way? First, breathe. Instead of spiraling into self-blame, pause, ask yourself, are these my people, or am I trying to belong where I'm not truly valued? Then, observe. Do they only call you when they need something? Do they keep you on the fringe, but never in the core? Or do they include you without hesitation? If the answer stings, remember this. Life's too short to beg for a seat at a table that was never set for you. You deserve connections where your presence isn't an afterthought. You deserve friendships built on genuine inclusion, not convenience. And one of the most stoic acts is quietly letting go of spaces that refuse to make space for you. So stand tall. Release the need to chase what doesn't choose you back, because your worth isn't up for debate. Have you ever discovered that people were gathering while you were left in the shadows? Drop your story in the comments. Remember, you're not alone. Let's talk about one of the most twisted forms of hidden dislike. Backhanded compliments. They sound sweet, but sting like salt in an open wound. It's the savage truth nobody wants to admit. People who secretly resent you often pretend to praise you while slipping in a knife. Have you ever heard words like these? Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you. You look amazing. Did you finally start working out? I'm surprised you pulled that off, knowing how shy you usually are. On the surface, they sound flattering, but deep down, they're loaded with poison. It's subtle, but undeniable. I've been there. Years ago, I spent months working on a creative project. Late nights, endless drafts, doubting myself every step. Finally, I shared it with a colleague I trusted. They smiled and said, "Wow, this is actually really good for someone who's new at this." I froze those last words. For someone who's new at this. Hit me like a punch in the ribs. A part of me wanted to laugh it off, but another part whispered, why can't they just say it's good without the hidden dagger? The Stoics teach us a powerful lesson here. Marcus Aurelius said, when someone speaks badly of you, remember, it says more about them than it does about you. Backhanded compliments are a twisted form of power. They're designed to keep you small, to remind you that no matter how much you grow, they'll always see you as less. Here's the savage truth. People who deliver these compliments often feel threatened. Your progress makes them confront their own lack of growth. Your light makes them squint at the shadows they'd rather not face. So how do you deal with it? The Stoic way. First, pause. Don't rush to defend yourself or laugh it off. Instead, ask calmly, thank you, but what exactly do you mean by that? This forces them to clarify their words, and most times, people who hide insults behind flattery hate being confronted. They'll either backpedal or show their true feelings. But either way, you reclaim your power, because silence gives them permission to keep doing it. Life's too short to keep swallowing disguised hostility. And remember this, genuine people celebrate your growth without conditions. They don't need to remind you of where you started, just to feel taller. So stand tall. When compliments feel like jabs, don't let them slide, because your worth isn't up for debate. Have you ever been on the receiving end of praise that felt more like a slap? Share your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that we deserve friendships where support doesn't come wrapped in hidden barbs. Let's talk about a sign that wears one of the most polite facades, yet slices deeper than you'd ever expect. They're always busy, but somehow only busy when it comes to you. You've probably heard it. I'm just slammed right now. Let's catch up soon. Or, sorry, work's insane. Maybe next week? On the surface, it sounds innocent. After all, who isn't busy these days? But deep down, there's a savage truth hiding beneath those polite excuses. People make time for who they value. I've been there. Years ago, there was a friend I considered family. We used to talk for hours, grab coffee, dream big plans together. Then, slowly, it shifted. Every time I tried to see him, he'd say, "Man, I'm just drowning in work. Let's touch base soon." I'd nod. I'd wait. Weeks passed. One day, I opened social media, and there he was, laughing at brunch, smiling in photos, with people I didn't even know he was close to. My chest tightened. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he thought I was too busy. Maybe he didn't want to bother me. But the truth whispered back, if he wanted you there, you'd be there. Stoic philosophy teaches us a brutal clarity. Epictetus wrote, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Being told someone's busy isn't inherently cruel, but when it becomes a pattern, it's a quiet statement. You're not a priority. Here's the twisted part. We often cling to excuses because it's easier than admitting the savage truth. We say, they're just overwhelmed. Or, it's a busy season. But the Stoics would urge us to observe reality, not wishful thinking. People who want you in their life make space for you, even in busy seasons. They carve out moments, a text, a quick call, a message saying, "I'm slammed, but I'm thinking of you." So how do you handle this? The Stoic way. First, pause. Don't chase them. Don't send 5 texts trying to fix it. Instead, observe their actions, over their words, and ask yourself, am I holding on to this friendship out of habit or because it truly nourishes me? Then, be honest. If someone consistently claims to be too busy, but shows up for everyone else, that's your answer. It's not about anger. It's about self-respect. Life's too short to beg for time from people who've already decided you're optional. And remember, your worth isn't measured by how hard you're willing to chase. Have you ever felt someone slipping away behind the mask of being busy? Share your story in the comments, because somewhere out there, someone else needs to know they're not alone. Let's talk about a sign that's silent, yet screams volumes. Selective ghosting. It's one of the cruelest, most twisted signals that someone secretly dislikes you. One day, they're texting you nonstop, sharing secrets, sending memes, planning weekends, and then silence. They vanish. like smoke. But here's the savage truth. They're not really gone. They're still online, watching your stories, leaving likes, but never starting a conversation. It's a twisted dance of being half present and half absent. I've been there. A few years ago, there was someone I trusted deeply. We talked late into the night about everything and nothing. I thought we were close. Then, suddenly, short replies, one-word answers, days with nothing. But I'd see them active online, commenting on other people's posts, sharing inside jokes. That no longer included me. At first, I blamed myself. Did I say something wrong? Was I too much? The silence became poison. The unanswered messages felt like proof that I'd somehow failed. But here's what Stoic philosophy teaches us. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Selective ghosting feels personal, but often it's not about you. People ghost because they're uncomfortable. Maybe your growth reminds them of where they're stagnant. Maybe your openness feels threatening. Or maybe they're avoiding a conversation they don't have the courage to have. The savage truth? Ghosting is cowardice dressed up as convenience. So how do you handle it? The Stoic way. First, pause. Don't send a dozen follow-up texts. Don't spiral into self-blame. Instead, observe their pattern. Ask yourself, was this person ever consistent, or were there always cracks in how they showed up? Then, decide if they've drifted, let them drift. Because here's the harsh reality. Anyone who disappears, the moment you need support, was never as solid as you hoped they'd be. And silence is sometimes your answer. The Stoics would remind you your peace is worth more than chasing ghosts. Life's too short to beg for attention from people who've already chosen distance. And remember, you're allowed to miss someone and still choose to move on, because your worth isn't measured by who decides to stay. Have you ever been ghosted by someone you thought would always be there? Share your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that sometimes disappearing acts have nothing to do with our value. Let's talk about a sign that's so subtle you might miss it entirely. Shifty Digital Body Language. Because in the modern world, eye contact isn't the only way people reveal how they feel about you. We now live in a universe of blue ticks, seen notifications, and silence that echoes louder than any words. Have you ever sent a heartfelt message only to see it marked as seen and nothing comes back? Or notice someone who used to engage with your posts suddenly watching silently, without liking, without commenting, without a trace of warmth? It's digital avoidance. And it's a savage truth that in this age, even body language has gone virtual. I felt it. A few years ago, I went through a tough season. I opened up online, shared a vulnerable post, thinking friends would check in. Instead, crickets. No comments, no messages. But I could see they'd all viewed my story, and some of them went on posting memes about loyalty and friendship. That was my wake-up call. Stoic philosophy teaches us that silence is an answer. Epictetus said, if someone avoids your eyes or your presence, it reflects more on their discomfort than your worth. Digital body language is no different. People might avoid engagement because they feel envy or discomfort, or because they've built a story in their mind that makes them keep distance. Here's the twisted reality. Some people keep you just close enough to know your business, but far enough to avoid genuine connection, and every seen notification without a reply feels like a silent rejection. So how do you handle it? The Stoic way. First, pause. Don't chase, don't double text, or write long paragraphs trying to pull them back. Instead, observe the pattern. Ask yourself, has this person truly shown up? Or have they always been halfway in and halfway out? The Stoics remind us, you cannot control how others engage with you, only how you choose to respond. So choose wisely. If someone's digital presence feels like a flicker of warmth, followed by cold silence, it's not your job to keep asking why. Life's too short to measure your value by blue ticks or ghost views. And remember this, people who care show up in ways that leave no doubt. Genuine friends don't leave you second guessing. So stand tall if someone's silence feels louder than their presence. That's your answer, because your worth isn't up for debate. Have you ever felt someone pull away digitally, even while keeping eyes on your life? Drop your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that in the digital age, silence speaks louder than words. Let's talk about a sign that often hides in shadows. Gossip, but not just any gossip. Hidden gossip, the kind that happens behind screens, in digital spaces, where your name becomes a conversation and you're not there to defend yourself. It's the savage truth that in this modern world, people don't always spread rumors face to face. They do it in private group chats, through subtweets, through inside jokes that you're suddenly excluded from. Have you ever felt the vibe shift in a group chat? Conversations that used to flow now feel clipped, like people are tiptoeing around something you can't see. Or have you noticed posts online that sound strangely like they're aimed at you? I've been there. A few years ago, I shared something vulnerable online. It was raw, honest, from my heart. Days later, a friend sent me screenshots, a different group chat, where people I thought cared about me were dissecting my post, mocking my words, making me out to be dramatic. The moment I read their messages, my stomach dropped. It felt like betrayal, wrapped in digital code. The savage truth, gossip is poison. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The Stoics remind us that what others say reflects more about them than about us. Hidden gossip often comes from envy or insecurity, or from people who need to tear someone down to feel momentarily taller. But here's the twisted brilliance of gossip. It lets people bond over shared cruelty. It creates a false sense of closeness at the expense of the person being discussed. So how do you handle it? The Stoic way? First, pause. Don't rush to confront. Don't launch into rage. Instead, observe. Ask yourself, does this gossip truly impact my life? Or is it noise I can let pass? The Stoics would say that your peace is worth more than defending your name to people who've already decided what they want to believe. If the gossip is minor, let it die. Because as Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But if it threatens your reputation or your work, then address it calmly, not with anger, but with clarity. Say, I've heard there are things being said. I'd prefer we discuss it directly instead of through whispers. That's how you stand tall, without becoming like those who wronged you. Life's too short to live consumed by the shadows of others' words. And remember, people who gossip about you will gossip about anyone. Their words are their burden to carry, not yours. So stand tall, because your worth isn't up for debate. Have you ever discovered that people were talking about you behind closed digital doors? Share your story in the comments. Let's remind each other that silence is sometimes the loudest truth. Let's get real. Not everyone who claps for you wants you to win, and not every smile hides good intentions. That's a savage truth. The Stoics knew long before social media ever existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything about the subject." Translation: not everyone's opinion deserves a seat in your mind, because sometimes the people around you are wearing masks, jokes that cut like knives, compliments wrapped around hidden daggers, group chats that plan events without you, silence when you need a friend the most, ghosting, gossip, digital cold shoulders. And it's easy to blame yourself, to wonder, what did I do wrong? Am I too much? Not enough? But here's the harsh reality. People's actions often say more about them than about you. The Stoics would remind us, you can't control how others feel. You can only control how you respond. That's your superpower. You get to choose whether you keep chasing people who keep you small. You get to decide when enough is enough. You get to protect your peace instead of fighting for space in someone else's life. Life's too short to keep pouring your heart into people who secretly hope you'll never shine brighter than them. So remember, your worth isn't up for debate. Not with friends, not with coworkers, not even with family. If someone is secretly rooting against you, that's their burden, not yours. The best revenge is simply to be unlike them. Stand tall, keep your dignity, and keep living a life rooted in courage and virtue, because people who deserve you will show up loudly, clearly, without leaving you guessing. So I have a question for you. Have you ever felt that someone disliked you, but was hiding it? How did you handle it? Did you respond the Stoic way or the old way? Drop your story in the comments. Your experience might be the light someone else needs to walk away from the shadows. And if you found wisdom in this video or felt a part of your own story in these words, subscribe to Stoic Viva, because this channel is your space to grow stronger, to stay grounded, and to keep your inner peace in a world that often tests it. Hit like, share this with someone who might be caught in the silent pain of hidden hostility. Let's build a community of people who choose wisdom over chaos. Remember, you're not alone, and your worth isn't up for debate.